Hey, Tyler,
Yeah, Sam?
if there was an avatar right now living in our world, who do you think the avatar would be?
Oh my God, I don't know. I mean, the Avatar is supposed to be the keeper of peace, and I'm not sure our world has someone like that right now.
I think Greta Thunberg would be the avatar.
Wait, really?
If you think about it, it makes sense. She's a climate change activist, and that is part of the avatar's job, to be the bridge between nature and the spirits and man. I've already made the arrangements to construct a temple in her name on a remote volcanic island. Oh, and this is the Avatar podcast.
Yip Yip?
On this podcast, we watch the Nickelodeon show Avatar: The Last Airbender, episode by episode, and discuss it in detail.
We'll talk about plot, themes, and character development throughout the show, as well as anything else that we may notice that's also relevant to what's going on in our world or the Avatar world. I messed that up. I was gonna make a joke about our world as in Greta Thunberg. Keep going, Sam.
Okay. At the end of each episode, we'll talk about who our favorite character was, as well as give the episode a rating on a scale of 1 to 10.
You're listening to the Avatar podcast.
Yip Yip.
Sam,
right,
I like
Tyler.
how every episode we progressively get worse with first it was the credits and now it's also leaking into the intro.
By the time we get to the end of book 1, it'll just be like, oh, Jumba.
I was thinking by the time we get to the end of the series, it'll be like, we're gonna talk about show.
We're doing show. We're talking about Avatar: Last
And there's
Airbender.
shows that we watch that we're talking.
Well, until that day comes, let's be a little more coherent than
Let's
that.
try to be.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about the 8th episode of Book 1. Oh my God, we're on the 8th episode.
I know, right?
And the 8th episode of Book 1 is titled Winter Solstice, Part 2, Avatar Roku.
Aang travels to the Fire Temple to speak with Avatar Roku on the winter solstice. In addition to being chased by Zuko, a Fire Nation blockade led by Zhao attacks them, but does not manage to stop them. Arriving at the temple, Aang is shocked to learn that the 5 fire sages, which tend to the temple, are no longer the Avatar's allies. However, one sage remains loyal, Xiao, helps Aang to reach the sanctuary where he is to speak with the past Avatar. One sage who remains loyal. There we go. I messed that up. My bad. One sage who remains loyal, Xiao, helps Aang to reach the sanctuary to speak with the past Avatar Roku. Roku informs Aang about Sozin's comet, which gave the Fire Nation the power to start the war 100 years prior, and will give them power again to finish it upon its arrival at summer's end. Aang defeats Zhao, Zuko, and the sages when he manifests the spirit of Roku, who destroys the temple.
All right, good job.
I wouldn't say it was good. It was a bit shaky.
The episode premiered on Nickelodeon on April 15th, 2005, and was written by Michael Dante DiMartino, who was also one of the creators of the show.
Very nice job.
All right, well, because this episode is literally nothing but plot.
There's I wouldn't say it's nothing but plot. There's one theme. Quite literally, one theme.
Reiterate. Almost nothing but plot.
There we go.
Let's dive into the plot.
There's probably more than one theme, but one is the only one we noticed. Anyway, we're going to dive into the plot now. And since you hijacked it from me last time, I'm hijacking it from you this time.
Okay.
So the first plot point is Aang, Sokka, and Katara have to get to Avatar Roku's temple, which is in the Fire Nation. How are they going to do it?
They gonna fly there.
They're going to fly there. You're exactly correct. And they're going to fly there from the Earth Kingdom. Distance is really, really weird in this world.
Yeah, it's
and
just
we're
in the Earth Kingdom.
Not been able to figure it out.
And now we're going to get to the Fire Nation, and all of a sudden we're there less than a day later.
Yep, I don't know how to figure it out, but whatever, we're just going with it. First, they must get past a blockade, which Zhao is in charge of.
And after a very good action sequence, I would say, very entertaining, they do get past the blockade after a series of fortunate events.
Mm-hmm.
And then once they get to the actual temple, Aang finds out the Fire Nation sages meant to help the Avatar, the Fire Nation sages meant to help the Avatar have sided with the Fire Nation. So basically, their allegiance is supposed to be with the Avatar, but they ain't anymore. They with the Fire Nation now.
Yes.
My grammar went out the window.
It's okay. I thought it was good. We enjoyed it. Like we said in the synopsis, one sage, Shayu, helps the gang. That's gang with 2 A's. Get it? Helps the gang get to the part of the temple where Roku is. I had a really hard time while I was writing this, trying to decide what it's called, like where Roku is. Is it just like a room? Is it a sanctuary? I didn't think I even thought of sanctuary when I was writing this. That's probably a much better word.
Sanctuary is probably the best word.
I did not think of that while I was writing this. You know what, Sam? I wrote this during work and my bosses caught me. So was it worth it? We'll find out.
I don't even know if that's the correct word. It's just the closest, like sanctuary.
Maybe we should go with that from now on.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Okay. Shayu explains that the sages used to be loyal to the Avatar, but when Sozin launched the 100-Year War, he commanded that they follow and be loyal to him.
Mm-hmm. And then Shayu tells of how when he actually found out the Avatar was alive, he knew he would have to betray the other sages because he felt like he had to be loyal to the Avatar because that's what they were created for, or that was once where their allegiance lied.
Yes.
And then after that, the gang struggles to get into the room that Ruko. I almost said Ruko. Zuko's alter ego, Ruko.
Zuko's alter ego, Ruko. I hate that.
Yeah, they struggle to get in the room because big door with 5 holes.
Big door with 5 holes needs fire. While they are struggling to get into the sanctuary, Zuko captures Aang, who then escapes, and then Zuko is then captured by Zhao. So that's a little bit of a romantic triangle, but cut out romantic and replace
violent
it with
triangle.
It's a violent triangle. After some troubles, Aang is able to get into the sanctuary with Roku, and he is able to talk with him.
So, a lot of things are revealed after this.
Oh, we're not done. We got to keep going.
I know, I am, but I'm just saying it's a little bit of a turning point because now they're in the sanctuary. Now lots of things are said.
Yes.
So, first thing we learned that the comet came 100 years ago. Sozin's comet. And it's important because it amplifies the Firebenders' powers. It is how they started the war 100 years ago. And Fire Lord Sozin, he used it to wipe out the air nomads and probably launch many other attacks in different parts of the world.
Yes.
So yeah, that comet is a big
big deal. We thought it was going to be a big deal in the previous episode, and turns out it is.
It's a giant deal.
Roku then goes on to explain that the comet will return, quote unquote, at the end of the summer. And time is kind of hard to pinpoint in the Avatar universe, but we can assume this means the fall equinox because it's currently the winter solstice. And the end of the summer, the fall equinox signifies the end of the summer. So we think it will be around September 21st.
Assuming that the astronomical rules of this universe are the same.
Yes.
So yes, we learn about that. And then we also learn Fire Lord Ozai is the current Fire Lord and Zuko's father. And he plans to use this comet to end the war. And that is likely through some kind of worldly devastation, a giant worldwide attack, much like the last attack.
Yes.
But this time, they've been using the last 100 years to slowly
the nations
crawl.
are already suffering. So if you attack a suffering nation with full force, then it's likely to be
the
devastating.
last blow, the finishing move.
Yes. And then this next point can be perfectly summed up with one of Roku's lines.
If he succeeds, even the Avatar won't be able to restore balance to the world. Aang, you must defeat the Fire Lord before the comet arrives.
So we learn here that Aang must master all 4 elements before the comet comes, so he is able to defeat Ozai. Seeing as how this is the winter solstice, as I said earlier, Aang has about 9 months to do this. He's already mastered air, so he needs to learn and master 3 elements and fight the world's biggest threat in less than a year.
That's not a lot of time, Tyler.
Definitely not.
That's not a lot of time.
It is definitely not. He crunched for time.
So after Roku is done talking to Aang, Roku decides to manifest himself through Aang to destroy the temple, and then that's what saves them from the attack. You know, Zhao is waiting. But Roku has other plans, obviously. And then Zuko escapes in all of the chaos. We assume Zhao does as well, even though it's not shown at all. And then we don't really know what happened to Xiaoyu. God, I hate saying his name that way.
We'll touch on that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Speaking of later, here are some other things we noticed. And Sam, I want to talk about this because it bothers me.
Go for it.
Xiaoyu says his grandfather was a sage at the launch of the war. All of the sages are fairly old. I would say in their 60s. Xiaoyu still looks on the younger end of the sages, but still definitely in his older years. His hair isn't white, so I wouldn't say he's like 70s or 80s. I would say he's in his early 60s, maybe 61 or 62. So assuming that Sozin was a reasonable age when he launched the war, our current president is in his 70s, and a lot of our presidents before then have been in their older years, their 50s and 60s. So let's assume the Fire Lord was also in that age. Then Ozai, the grandson of the Fire Lord, should be about the same age as Xiaoyu, right? Ozai should be about in his 60s. But that also means that Ozai shouldn't have a teenager for a son. He would be having a son well into his 40s, which, don't get me wrong, that still happens. And for people who do have kids in their 40s, like, that's great. That is becoming more common if that's what you decide you want to do. But for a quote-unquote stereotypical timeline, the most common age to have your kids is late 20s or early 30s. So Ozai shouldn't really be that old. What I'm trying to get at is that there should be another generation somewhere in there, or it should be spaced out differently, but there's not. And the royal family doesn't really make that much sense. And it really, really bothers me. It's so hard to wrap my head around, like, when each of the royal family was born and how all of that works. And ultimately, it just makes no sense. And it really, really bothers me.
Just gotta go with it. You just kind of just be like, okay, I guess this is how it works.
Yep, I'm refusing to do that.
All right. The last point we want to make is that Xiaoyu's name is not pronounced Xiaoyu. It's supposed to be Shu.
Yep.
It's supposed to be Shu.
Yep.
That's how it's a product of Romanization. I get it. And then as an American, you want to say shy because that's usually how you would say it if you totally like translate it. But it's not. It's a product of Japanese Romanization. It's Shu. It's supposed to be Shu.
Don't get me wrong. So Xiaoyu could be a Chinese name, right? I don't know if it is or not. I don't think you know if it is or not either. So Xiaoyu could be a Chinese name.
Yeah.
But that's also problematic if it is, because Xiaoyu is a Fire Nation citizen, which is based off Japan. And in Japan, it would be pronounced the way his name is spelt would be pronounced Shu. And so the fact that his name is pronounced Xiaoyu really bothers me.
We're making a lot of assumptions here.
Yes.
But they are not drawing lines very well of where it's still like the blanket, East Asian
And we
culture.
have noticed it has been getting better. So that's good. I didn't type this in the notes, so I'm just going to bring it up right now. The architecture of the temple is very similar to a Japanese temple.
Yes.
So I like that. I enjoyed that a lot.
That is consistent.
Yes.
It is. But it's Shu. It's Shu, y'all. It's supposed to be Shu.
Again, like we've done in past episodes, for the sake of continuity, we will call him Xiaoyu.
Well, now that we have that out of the way, let's dive into our only theme that we have.
Again, it's probably not the only theme. It's just the only one that we noticed.
It's the biggest one and most obvious one. So yeah, let's dive in. So we want to talk about morality. Xiaoyu struggles with the choice between what he believes is morally right and what he has been told to do. So he is looking at his own morals and is trying to make a decision for himself. And ultimately, he chooses to side with the Avatar. That's what he thinks is morally right, and that's what he eventually goes with.
He knows that the Avatar is supposed to bring balance to the world, right? He knows that the Avatar is objectively very good. And he kind of sees through, I wrote down lies, but I guess propaganda is a better word, that the Fire Nation has crafted and fed their nation. He sees the war for what it truly is, which is an attempt at domination and control.
He really knows that he really has to almost sacrifice himself for the greater good. You know, him choosing the Avatar over the Fire Sages and furthermore the Fire Nation means he's betraying the Fire Nation, and that most likely comes with consequences.
Yes.
So he really does have to sacrifice himself, because if they find out he helped him, he's in big trouble, and obviously they do.
Yeah, well, it's really sad because he shouldn't have to make that choice between the safety of the rest of the world and his own safety. But he does, and he willingly makes that choice. He knows that. Here's a really good line quoting him.
When Fire Lord Sozin began the war, my grandfather and the other sages were forced to follow him. I never wanted to serve the Fire Lord. When I learned you were coming, I knew I would have to betray the other sages.
So he knows that this is a choice that he has to make. And it's really sad, but he is self-aware of it. And Sam, this is something we've brought up a lot.
Yeah, because it's a very obvious comparison.
You know what? I did not see this when I was a kid. Like, we have brought this up in nearly every single episode. And as a kid watching this show, I did not realize this. And as soon as we say it, our audience will not be surprised. They're probably already guessing what we're going to say.
Yeah, very obvious connections to Nazi Germany, but also, by extension, imperialist Japan. I know more about Nazi Germany, so I will not attempt to make generalizations about imperialist Japan.
That's a good choice, because we live in a white nation that doesn't teach us about Asian cultures or history.
Citizens had to pledge allegiance to the Nazi Party. Basically, if you were actively against the Nazi Party, you were seen as an enemy and either were socially ostracized or killed.
Yeah, there's actually a movie about this that recently came out that I really want to see.
Yes, I want to. It's called A Secret Life, right?
A Hidden Life.
Hidden Life.
It was recently released. I really want to see that movie.
Yeah, so, I mean, we see the connection here is that the Fire Sages are loyal to the Fire Lord, and obviously we see at the end of the episode, because they did something that wasn't in the Fire Nation, and by extension, Fire Lord's best interest, they were traitors of the Fire Nation and were, obviously going to get punished for it. We don't know exactly what, but they were going to.
Yeah.
So,
Sam, I'm going to be honest with you. That was a struggle.
That was a struggle, but we got through it.
We did. That was a struggle trying to get through, trying to parse through that very thick plot.
It was necessary, though.
There was so much that happened that we needed to dissect, and it was difficult.
We needed to mention it, so please forgive our stumbling.
Yes. Let's take a quick break. I know that I need one, and come back and talk about characters.
All right, let's do it.
And we're back. I needed that break. I needed more water. And now I have some more water, so hopefully my voice won't be hurty as much.
Yes.
So we're on to characters now. And this episode is interesting in that we can't really dive too deep into characters. We got force-fed a lot of new characters, a lot of new people that we gotta keep in mind. And the first one is Sozin, the previous Fire Lord. He is Zuko's great-grandfather, and he was the one who launched the 100-Year War.
And the next character is Ozai, who is the current Fire Lord, and it's Zuko's father. So every time Zuko mentions his father, all the things he's doing is revolving around Ozai, who is the current Fire Lord.
Roku is the next character. That he was the Avatar before Aang. He was from the Fire Nation. He must have died 12 years before the war started, seeing as how Aang is 12 years old, and Aang never lived in a time of war. He also, kind of has he's like a paternal figure to Aang. He teaches him things. He also shows that he's really caring about him. He has this one line that I really like that we're going to take a listen to.
It's good to see you, Aang. What took you so long?
And I kind of like that just because it's like, if you show up late to a family gathering, even though like your family knows that you're running a little bit late, like someone is still bound to make a joke similar to that. So I liked that. I thought it was like a cute little thing that Roku did.
We also meet the Fire Sages this episode, and obviously they're a big part of the episode. But their role is they are the caretakers of the Avatar temples. So this temple to Roku, who was the previous Avatar. They used to be loyal to the Avatar, so only served the Avatar, but they were forced to be loyal to the Fire Lord after, the whole coming to power thing and that old chestnut.
One of these sages who has some importance is Xiaoyu, which we talked about him. The only fire sage who's still loyal to the Avatar, and he helps Aang connect with Roku.
And finally, Zhao isn't a new character per se, but this is really the second time we've seen him.
He's still newish.
Yes, he is newish. We see again his like weird obsession with Zuko and like trying to beat him to capture the Avatar. We don't really necessarily know what exactly is driving him to do that. There's just some sort of connection, like competition at play between these two characters. We see that he's at least somewhat smart. He's not a total like firehead. He's not an idiot. He doesn't do things on impulses or whims. He does, plan things out. He plans to follow Zuko. Even when Zuko tries to trick him, Zhao is still able to figure out. So he's not a total idiot. And he is actually pretty insecure on the flip side of that. He feels that Zuko, who is a teenage boy, is going to one-up him or make him look bad. So that says a lot about his character.
Gotta love Zhao.
Love him.
Which, let's talk about this for a hot sec, because we've been talking about it. Zhao is a Chinese name.
It's true. More inconsistency with names.
Like, why couldn't you just swap one of the two? I get it. Haru doesn't sound that intimidating, so you can't name your villain
Commander Haru.
Commander Haru. That's such an easy name to make fun of, specifically because of one.
Spring?
It does. Oh, you couldn't have picked a different Japanese name that sounds more intimidating. Like, come on.
All right, let's move on from Zhao.
Yes, please.
And let's talk about Zuko.
Yes. I like that in this episode. In the previous episode, we saw the lengths he's willing to go to give up his search for the Avatar, or at least temporarily put it on hold, the things that are important to him, right? And I like how we see in this episode more things that are important to him in relation to his search for the Avatar. We saw that his uncle was more important than his quest for the Avatar. And here we see his quest for the Avatar is more important than his banishment. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's like he breaks his banishment, but he doesn't do it just to like misbehave, I guess. He's doing it because he is in pursuit of the Avatar. And if he catches the Avatar, he assumes that like he'll gain forgiveness from his father and he'll gain his like honor back and all of that.
Yeah, like that's exactly right. He feels like the reward outweighs the risk. He doesn't really care that he's going into Fire Nation territory because his goal is to capture the Avatar. And to him, the Avatar is the key to forgiveness for everything that he's done. So compared to what he did before, I don't think trespassing into Fire Nation waters and apparently breaking whatever banishment agreement there is, that's not as important as his goal. So he is willing to battle Zhao in his very obviously bigger fleet in order to get the Avatar.
In a way, it's saying that he doesn't necessarily care about his father as much as he cares about his uncle. Because he'll put his uncle above his search for the Avatar, but he'll put his search for the Avatar above his father's wishes. But it's a little bit ironic because what he's doing is still to gain his father's approval. So there's a little bit of irony in there.
Zuko's an interesting character.
Yeah, and I didn't think there was that much depth to him this episode, but after I thought about it a little bit more, there was, and I liked it.
Exactly.
Let's move on to the next character. We only have two that we're like really honing in on because again, very plot-heavy episode. That's just what we tried to sparse
we
through.
would talk about Aang a bit more, but it was really just like plot.
He was
things
mostly
happening
just
to
used
him.
to drive the plot forward.
Yeah, it was happening to him, and there wasn't a lot of him reacting to it.
Yes.
It was literally just, we're telling you, the audience, this and Aang at the same time.
It's almost as if like you're playing a video game. Aang would be the
character you're playing. Aang would be your avatar.
boo, boo.
Worst joke of the series so far.
Yes, it is. I will give you that one. Sam, go to our next character.
All right, we're going to talk about Sokka next because there's enough there for us to talk
enough.
about. So this episode entirely reinforces that he is the smart guy of the group.
Yeah.
And he is the plan guy.
Yeah, we saw him make the plans in imprisoned. And
Very good plans too.
Yeah.
Like actually well thought out and detailed, and it's just not just like, this is the first thing that popped into my, well, it seemed like it was the first thing that
it
popped
seemed
into
like
his
it.
head.
It could be, but it seemed like he formed this plan, you know? It
Yes,
wasn't just
exactly.
like, oh, let's try this.
Stupid, cheesy shot where it scrolls up and there's this stupid lantern above.
I
his
think
head.
it's funny.
I hate that.
I
shot.
love that. I think it's very
cheesy.
funny.
It's so cheesy.
Shut up, it's funny.
Yeah, and when that plan doesn't work, he's able to craft a backup plan almost immediately. So he's quick-witted too. Yeah, he's a smart dude, even though he's also a little bit of a dumbass in other ways. But
Yeah.
where it counts, he's smart.
His knowledge is very useful to the group.
And
Those are
that's
the
it. That's
only two.
it.
That's it. That's it.
And that's it.
And that's it.
So yeah, why don't we transition to the next part of the episode?
We can't transition to the next part of the episode yet, Sam.
Why is that?
We have to take a quick break.
Okay. All right, we are back from the break, and this is the point in the episode. Y'all know by now, hopefully,
Hopefully.
that we share our favorite characters and our score for the episode. So, Tyler, who was your favorite character?
I had to think about this one a lot because there's not a lot of characters that have much depth to them, you know? So I ultimately decided on Zuko. And like I said earlier, there is a little bit of irony in there that he kind of disrespects his father, but he's doing it to gain his father's respect. I liked that. And there was also that interesting dynamic about how, in a way, his actions kind of speak to how he respects his uncle more than his search for the Avatar, and his search for the Avatar more than his father. I like that. I also like how we see, we've already seen the lengths that he's willing to go to capture the Avatar, but I feel like now we see a reason behind capturing the Avatar and why it's so important to him. And I think that's an interesting contrast to Zhao's reasoning to capturing the Avatar, which is basically just for the glory and for the celebration of himself, where Zuko is doing it to regain some sort of honor that he believes he could have. So that's why I chose him. I'm not like, Zuko is my favorite, but I think in this episode, out of everyone that there is, he was the most interesting.
Sweet.
Sam, who's your favorite?
My favorite character was Sokka.
Do you want to explain why?
Because he's a smart boy. Because he's smart. Yeah, like, I don't know. I always put myself in his shoes in this episode. Like, I think I would be most like Sokka in that situation. I would love to be the dude that comes up with the plan and contributes in that way.
Yes.
And then Aang does the heavy lifting with his, powerful bending and,
Yeah.
getting possessed by Roku and stuff.
That's a word for it.
Yeah, I just like Sokka a lot. He shows he is very smart and resourceful and very human. Very human character.
That is justifiable.
Thanks. All
You're
right,
welcome.
we've said favorite characters. What is your verdict for this episode?
This is interesting because this is not an episode I feel passionate about, but I'm going to give it a 10.
Wow.
Yep. And the reason behind that is because it's exciting. It is honestly the most important episode to date besides the pilot. We learn the point to the series, like what the end goal of this series is. And the action sequences, all of them, there's probably about 3 or 4 in this episode, are all very interesting and engaging to watch. They're never boring. And just all of the information that you get from Aang's talk with Roku, really just intriguing. And Roku manifesting himself through Aang and destroying the temple at the end, very, very, very powerful. Like, astounding. You've just met this guy, and already you see his incredible capabilities as an avatar. And as a deceased avatar, too.
Just his spirit.
It's astounding. There's nothing necessarily wrong with this episode, and it's very engaging the whole way through. And I think it's just a great episode that people need to see.
All right. Yeah, I respect that.
Yeah. I feel weird about that because, like, I'm not passionate about this episode, but I think it's astounding. You know, I think it's a very well-made, written episode. So, Sam, what's your verdict?
So you've kind of convinced me, not convinced me, but like made me realize that my score I was originally going to give it is probably a little low. So I've bumped up my score from an 8 to a 9.
Okay.
When I think about it and going through this script and like analyzing this episode, and actually talking through it, I'm just like, it's better than an 8 because it is really engaging all the way through. And there is a lot of information thrown at you. The reason I don't give it a 10 is because I do think it's a lot of show. It's a lot of telling you what's happening, not showing you what's happening. It's a lot of information all at once, which I think could have been spaced out a little bit more. So that's why I don't give it a 10. I don't think it's a perfect episode. Yeah. I do think it's a little too much information overload, but it's a good episode.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy watching it, but it's not like the first 3 episodes we gave where it's just like every time we watch it, we're like, wow, that's good.
Yeah.
And this one's just like, yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
So that's why I give it a 9.
Yep. I respect that.
Thanks.
I might bump mine down to a 9.
So are we both giving it a 9?
No, because I'm not sure. I feel like this episode has value because a lot of it is action sequences, you know? And it's hard. This episode was so hard for us to analyze, both theme-wise and character-wise, because there's nothing there, right? Like, most of the episode is plot sequences, except for 2 parts, which are both 5 minutes maximum, you know? Otherwise, every other part of this episode is an action sequence. And that's still engaging, you know? Yeah. Those are still very interesting to watch. And because we can't dissect those and analyze those doesn't mean they don't have value. And I would agree with you that it's a bit too much information packed into one, but I think that everything else about this episode kind of makes up for it. So yes, I am staying where I am. I don't feel like wow about this episode, but I still feel like, yes, this one is a 10 out of 10. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick with my rating.
All right. That's a good enough conclusion for me. So that's all we have for this episode. A huge thank you goes out to our producer and audio engineer, Aaron Bogen, along with his production company, Sonovent Productions, and Annie Galloway, who made our cover art and is our graphic designer.
Make sure you join us next week. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We're almost halfway through the season. I would love to increase our listener base. I want to reach out to as many people as I can, as many Avatar fans as we can.
Do it, review it, share it with your friends.
Yes, please. It is so helpful. Share it with your friends. Share the show. Share it on your Facebook, on your Twitter, all of the above.
Yes. And if you ever want to get more involved with our Avatar content, please feel free to reach out to us. Send us questions about the show, fan theories you may have, what you thought of the episode, something we mentioned that you liked, or something we didn't mention that you wish we would have talked about. Our email is airbenderpod@gmail.com, or you can tweet us or follow us on Instagram, both @airbenderpod. That's AIR Bender POD.
And if you want to keep in touch and stay updated on the Avatar fandom, make sure you join our Facebook community page at the Avatar Podcast Yip Yip Community, where you can discuss the show with other fans and ourselves.
I'm Sam Albus, the co-host and co-writer of this show. You can follow me on Twitter at Sam_Albus or on Instagram at Sam Albus. My last name is spelled Albus.
I'm Tyler Strandberg, the host, creator, and writer of this show. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram, both at TylerJohn7. That's TYLERJON and the number 7.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Bye.